We got an interesting find today here in the Transformer world. We're diving into a little bit of lost media. A lot of stuff from the Generation 1 cartoon is now starting to surface after many years. A lot of hardcore fans have been buying film reels, have been buying recording reels, have been buying all different things from storyboards and original scripts and animation cells, and it's starting to slowly bubble to the surface, and we're finding all these things that we amazingly still didn't know about this cartoon that came out, dare I say, it's coming up to 40 years now. And some really cool stuff just popped up recently that we kind of knew existed, but we never really knew the whole story until maybe only a couple years ago, and now we have some of that lost media here today, which is, it was pretty much a known fact that after the 86 movie, they weren't going to be able to have Judd Nelson play Hot Rod Rodimus Prime, and Wally Burr, the voice director for Transformers, specifically the TV series, had to find someone else. And going into season 3, they got an individual by the name of Ted Schwartz, and he kind of fit the role for Hot Rod. He had a very similar sounding voice to Judd Nelson's Hot Rod, and he had just been doing Spider-Man up to that point, Ted Schwartz, for the Sunbow Marvel stuff. And hey, this is going to be Hot Rod Rodimus, that's going to be that. He recorded 3 episodes of Five Faces of Darkness, the first 3 episodes of season 3, and that was it pretty much. What we knew is when those episodes finally aired, it wasn't Ted Schwartz who was Rodimus Prime, it was Dick Gautier instead. And we didn't really learn the whole story of what happened with that until years later at TFCon 2013. What was cool about that year, too, was I was actually Dick Gautier's handler. Totally wasn't done on purpose because me and Hot Rod are best friends in the world, of course. But he was my handler that week. I was his handler that weekend. He was funny as hell for a dude who was 82 years old, sharp as always. And he talked about during his panel, a lot of great stuff that he talked about. One thing he mentioned was, he said, like, oh, there was an individual by the name of Ted Schwartz who was originally going to have the role before him, because he was doing Spider-Man and was in the office. And what he means by in the office, in the Sunbow Marvel office of recording in the West Coast. And Wally Burr at the time really wanted to have more star power for season 3. You know, there's going to be no Peter Cullen. They want to have some star power. You know, they're coming off of the 86 movie that had all this star power. And here was Dick Gautier, who, you know, was known, if you were especially someone like Wally Burr's age, Get Smarts, you know, Jaime the Robot. Dick Gautier also had already signed to do stuff with G.I. Joe. He was going to be Serpentor in that. So he brought Dick Gautier in, and even though Ted had recorded 3 episodes already, Dick went in and re-recorded over all of Ted Schwartz's lines and stuff. And what's interesting about it is if you go back and watch those episodes in their original form on DVD or VHS or whatever, you do hear some of the Ted Schwartz lines that actually forgot to be, I guess, removed. And it's specifically when they do the recap for part 1 going into part 2, like, you know, like the here's what happened last episode kind of thing, last time on the Transformers. You hear the Ted Schwartz lines in that recap. And then, of course, there's like one single line in part 3 when they're fighting against the goo that you hear Ted Schwartz's lines. Those are the only 2 that were never removed. And you notice that there's a very big difference between Dick Gautier's Rodimus Prime and Ted Schwartz's Rodimus Prime. Again, Ted Schwartz's Rodimus Prime was very Judd Nelson sounding, which in a lot of ways is, you know, pretty cool. And no offense to Dick Gautier, did an amazing job and did some great line reads for Rodimus Prime throughout the years, especially with season 3. But I mean, I really liked what Ted Schwartz did too, I'll be honest with you.
This planet is quarantined. Nobody comes, nobody goes until we find Cup, Spike, and Magnus.
And what if we don't?
Then we'll trash every Decepticon in the galaxy.
This planet is quarantined. Nobody comes, nobody goes until we find Cup, Spike, and Magnus.
And what if we don't?
Then we'll trash every Decepticon in the galaxy.
And but the good news is all of that lost media now. All of those recordings are starting to surface. And the very first episode of season 3, Five Faces of Darkness, with the Ted Schwartz dub in there, the original line reads and recordings, is on YouTube right now. And this comes courtesy of the man himself from Serial Geek. I love his stuff. James Etalk. He's been doing some great stuff on YouTube. He had a magazine many years ago before that called Serial Geek. And he's been putting, his money where his mouth is and getting all this material. And now we have the original dub, and it's pretty radical to watch. Go rewatch these classic episodes that we've watched 100 times before over the past almost 4 decades now, and now have a little spin on it because now it has the original dub in it of Ted Schwartz that sounds a lot more like Hot Rod Rodimus Prime's Judd Nelson. So very interesting. I'll put the link down below, and you could go check out the episode. It's on YouTube right now. And then afterwards, go check out Serial Geek TV and all their other great stuff that they're doing, maintaining and preserving 80s and 90s cartoons that potentially could get lost forever, because a lot of times this material isn't protected. People throw it out. They don't think it's worth anything back then, and it's lost forever. So really great that a piece of Transformers lost media was rescued and now is shared across the world. And, Ted Schwartz, in the end, he didn't really do anything much with Transformers. He was big for Spider-Man, and that was his thing. He did get a line in Season 3. He was the voice of Tailgate, although spoke off the screen. So if you're a Tailgate fan, there's your one voice actor for him with Generation 1. So pretty cool stuff. Again, I'll link it in the description and the pinned comment below, and you can go check out the episode, The Lost Media. Pretty cool stuff. And just want to give another reminder. I talked about it last week. I talked about it during the live stream, but I'm going to remind people again. We have a Transformers Hasbro Pulse fan stream coming up this Transformer Tuesday, November 14th, 2023. It is going to be happening at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And there's going to be some big reveals and some pre-orders are going to go up. More specifically, everything happening with Transformers Reactivate. So not only are we going to get 2 new pre-orders are going to pop up, the Optimus and the Soundwave 2-pack, and the Starscream and Bumblebee 2-pack will go up for pre-order on Hasbro Pulse. But we might actually learn some brand new information about the video game, potentially a release date. I hope so. No promises with that, but hopefully that's what BMAC and the marketing crew are going to talk about. So stay tuned for that also. A lot of cool stuff happening next week for the live stream with Hasbro Pulse. And that's it, more or less. Pretty much a quiet week for Transformers. I get a feeling next week is going to be the big bombastic one. But the cool thing is we already saw the Bumblebee. We already saw the Starscream. We already saw the Optimus. Now at least the big reveal will be the finally get to see the Soundwave and all the cool stuff related to that. And hopefully, I'm hoping to learn more about this video game, because video games are going to be very crucial to the development and growth of the Transformers brand going into 2024 and beyond, much like how the Fall of Cybertron and War of Cybertron games were such a big boon for Transformers during that time in 2013 when that came out. So let me know what you think, guys. Great stuff. And once again, thank you for listening to the Transformer Slag podcast, and I'll talk to you in the near future.